How's everything?
Good, good. Just we had el credo en la boca because you didn't.
Sorry.
Everything is fine now.
Super. Let me close the window. One moment.
Sure.
Here I am.
Can you empower Yamith, please?
Okay, I have everything ready.
Hello, Yamith. Could you please try to share your screen?
I will. Give me 1 second. One moment, please. Okay. Let me see.
Hello, Julia, are you there?
One moment, because I'm trying. I guess this is it. Okay, I guess this is the one.
All right, we see you and we see your screen. Say hello, Yamith, please.
Hello, hello.
Good. Everything is fine. So you are on board.
Good.
We have like 1 more minute to start off. So just like warm up with the coffee.
Okay. I will, yes.
All right. All right. Good. Yamith, can you see the chat box?
I can.
If you go to the, are you familiar with Zoom?
Not that much, to be honest. We use Moodle. We use Moodle at university, and then that's the way I have learned. But yes, I suppose there are 17 people, right? So
yes, there are. So if you tinker around, you can find there the option. There is a link that says chat. So I think you do have access to it.
I suppose. Let me see. Annotate, remote control, more. Wait. I see something. Chat 1. Yes.
That one. All right. So that's it. So you can have that window open as well. And that would be great because you can actually see people's comments and questions along your presentation. So what we could do is 2 things. If you want me, I could recap all these questions, or you can look at them and then you go commenting or answering those questions along your presentation, as you please, as you prefer.
Hello, Julia. Right. Well, I think it might work like you helping me out, since I'm going to try to focus on the presentation.
Okay, great. No problem. All right, so it's 5 o'clock already. Hello to you all. Thank you very much for joining us again. We have been doing these webinars for almost 3 months already. And today we have one more session about decoloniality. Now we have a great, super guest today. We have Yamith Fandiño today with us, and he's going to share a different idea about this topic. And of course, more than welcome. And so recommendations as usual. We all are familiar with this. Turn
I think I'm losing you with the data. Are you listening to me?
Yes, Yamith, we are listening. I think
Thank
that
you.
the problem is only with Jair.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
so
God.
please
I was
go
like, oh
ahead.
my God. Okay, so I can start, right?
Yeah, sure, you can start.
Okay.
Yes, please do. Please do. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I just like I didn't pay this month connectivity. I'm sorry about that.
Don't
All
worry, we're
right. So
living a pandemic.
please feel free to start off. I
Okay,
know.
well,
So
first of
thank you
all,
very much, and I'm sorry for this interruption. Stop. Go ahead.
thank you so much for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to join with you guys from Azocopi and with all my colleagues from different parts of Colombia, in Bogota, in the coast. What I'm gonna do is share what I have been working in the last 2 years as part of my PhD at La Salle University. And well, I was invited to share some of the things that precisely I have been reading, I have been reflecting about. So I prepare this presentation to share some ideas. I hope you can find some interesting insights. You won't find definite answers, of course. That's not the idea, but it's just to share and to establish a dialogue as scholars, as members of the ELT community in Colombia. So, well, my presentation, I decided to call it Subjectivation and Resistance, taking the decolonial turn in ELT. So, well, initially, I want you please to focus on these two quotes from Foucault, somebody that I'm sure all of us know quite a lot. Because based on these quotes, I'm gonna put together some ideas. So I don't know if people can help me read. Is that okay? If somebody can activate the microphone maybe, so that it's not only me reading everything and saying everything. Somebody from the audience, or maybe Jair, or I don't know.
I can help.
Thank you.
Okay, so it seemed to be appropriate to look for the forms and modalities of the relation of the self by which the individual constitutes and recognizes him, herself as a subject. Foucault, 2000, page 332. Do you want me to read the next one?
Yeah, please.
Instead of referring to a theory of the subject, it seemed to me that one should try to analyze the different forms by which one is led to constitute oneself as a subject. Foucault, 2008.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much. When I started thinking about what is it that makes us all EL teachers, apart from our professional agendas, from our academic journeys, etc., there is always this idea that as teachers, we have always tried to understand our realities, our students, our institutions. I don't know, Joanna, is that you or is it me? Because Joanna is asking something that she's not listening to me, I think. Okay, thank you, Daisy. Well, probably it's John. So, and then when I was wondering about, okay, what is it that I need to do next? I'm in my 40s. I'm doing my PhD. What am I supposed to do to first to contribute to my own journey, but also to contribute to the journey of those who I'm working with? As you probably know, I'm a teacher educator at La Salle University in Bogota, Colombia. And then I was struggling because I didn't know exactly what to do. Originally, I wanted to pursue or to continue with some studies on language policies. That was something that I had been doing for the last 5 years. But then I realized that this was an opportunity for me to find who I was, who I have become. And then by reading different things, listening to different colleagues, checking different theses, I realized that I wanted to understand and to recognize how I have constituted the subject that I am in the ELT community in Colombia. That I wanted to understand what forces, what agendas, what discourses have led me into being who I am in the year 2020. And that was why I decided to work on subjectivation, subjectivity, the subject, and resistance. I will then share with you 3 moments of a presentation that I prepared. The first one is basically my own analysis of who I am and different forces that interacted to make me who I am. And then based on that, I will try to share with you some ideas about teacher subjectivation, becoming a subject, and also some final ideas or some suggestions about how to resist what we are living nowadays in our universities, in our schools, in our country. So initially, well, the first thing that I believe one has to do is to understand how you have become who you are. And I have to say that my academic journey started many years ago when I was a high school student in a small town of Cundinamarca here in Colombia, Alonso Olaya. And why am I bringing that to you? You might say, why is that relevant? Because back then, I had the opportunity of studying English from 6th to 9th grade with a very traditional EFL teacher. He based his classes on lots of repetition, memorization, lots of dictations. But I was really, I really liked the way he approached the class, although he was traditional, with respect, with all his best desire for us to help, to learn. And then I was able to learn French in 10th and 11th grades. And this teacher, she was a woman, she was so innovative, so she was always trying to help us do role plays, and she used songs. Imagine, it was the 90s, it was not an easy job. She was also trying to propose games, interactions, and I could see the 2 perspectives. A traditional teacher with all his effort and love for his students, but from a traditional perspective, and a teacher who was trying new things out. Then, in 1993, 1999, well, I decided to become an English teacher. And I started studying at the National University of Colombia. And what I realized, or what I learned back then, was that there were some things that I was supposed to know, that I was supposed to acquire, that I was supposed to understand in order to be an English teacher. So apart from English, from the English language per se, and the different levels I was supposed to acquire and develop, I was also supposed to know about literature, the American literature, British literature, world literature. I was also supposed to learn about pedagogy, particularly didactics, methodology, and issues related to practicum. And also, because it was the National University, I was given linguistics, general linguistics, semantics, pragmatics, sociolinguistics, text linguistics, translation studies. So to me, my idea when I was doing my undergraduate study was the teacher is a person, is a professional who has different kinds of knowledge. All of those knowledge interact, all of those dimensions are necessary for you to teach a class. So I was surprised. It was not only to me like, so it's not only that I'm supposed to know English, but I am also supposed to know other disciplines and to be able to use them in my English classes to take informed decisions. Next, I started my master's degree program at La Salle University, and what I realized was the importance of research, particularly qualitative and social critical research. That was something that I didn't know that much, and that probably I didn't develop a lot when I was doing my undergraduate studies. It was also an opportunity to think about curriculum, planning, designing, evaluating courses, programs, and more importantly to me, it was an invitation to think about teacher education. In other words, it was not as in my undergraduate studies to know what I was supposed to teach and to know certain disciplines that were going to help me teach English. as a foreign language in my country, but it was also about becoming a teacher in our country. So I had the opportunity of working with historical perspectives, models, approaches, professionalism. And if you're listening to me, to what I'm saying closely, you're noticing I was becoming a kind of teacher. Next, in the year 2011, 2012, I decided to take a specialization course on virtual learning environments. And then I realized the importance of ICT, the importance of computer, applied language learning, or also or assisted language learning, web-based language learning, also the idea of technology-enhanced language learning. And I realized that there was another component that I was expected to know and also expected to put into practice, to apply into my teaching practices, into what I was doing in my classes with my students. I was also given the opportunity to think about instructional design, lessons, courses, and designing resources. So I realized that there were many things interacting with me. And there was a point where I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing. I felt like teaching was kind of a puzzle, so many pieces to put together. And what I have realized is that different institutions, different professors, different moments of my life have provided me with pieces. And I was really struggling to put them together. And then in the year 2017, because I didn't have anything else to do, I decided to pursue my PhD at La Salle University. And that allowed me to understand and to realize epistemology, everything that is behind knowledge creation, the rationalities behind it, also philosophies in terms of research. Very important to me so far, the idea of ethics and politics, integrity, responsibility, equity, social justice. I have heard those concepts before. It was I realized that I have been going around them, but probably not in a careful, systematic, reflected way. And then my PhD allowed me to start thinking about post-structuralism, cultural studies, decolonialism, because I was feeling that I was not only struggling to put pieces together, but I didn't understand why those pieces, why not others? And sometimes even when I put them together, they didn't seem to work. They didn't seem to be that effective. I had supposedly I was taught certain things, and if I was able to put them together, they should help me and they should help my students. And I was realizing that was not the case. Well, then what I noticed in my academic journey, as you can see, is I was a fragmented subject. There was too many things, too many voices, too many pieces that I was trying to put together. Many of them, I was not aware why I was even given those pieces. And I was struggling really to the point that I didn't really know what I was doing. I have to tell you that I started being a teacher educator 15 years ago, and I was really concerned with what I was saying to the new generation of teachers. I didn't want them to do things just because I was telling them to, and I was trying to satisfy their needs, their interests. Many of those interests and needs were based on what others were telling them. So I realized that most of the time, our academic journeys are not really ours. They are imposed. We are told to take those journeys, to follow certain paths. Okay, having said that, now I want to share with you another kind of journey. That is my professional journey. So I was learning to be a teacher and then a teacher educator. I was struggling with different pieces, but at the same time, I was answering to very particular contexts. I started working at private language centers, like some of the ones that you have there, Multilingua, Berlitz, Centro de Lengua, etc. And then what I noticed in those language centers is that English language teaching was, it's a business, and it's for business, it's to make money. And that we teachers are hired to teach classes to satisfy those needs, those interests. But then I had the opportunity of working at Centro Colombo Americano. And working at Centro Colombo Americano allowed me working with different kinds of students, children, university students, adults, sorry about the misspelling there, business people. And then I started realizing that there was much more than simply a business behind our profession. There was a lot of training at the Colombo, lots of being accountable for my students' results, for my own courses. And I also started noticing particularly, as Copenhagen defines it, in other words, how different classes, different populations, different contexts demand from us certain type of replies, answers, actions, behaviors. And it was a good school in that sense. I received lots of training. I was supposed to learn certain things and then to put them into practice, and then somebody was going to observe me to make sure that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. But at the same time, I noticed the particular needs and interests of my students and my own. I was working first on Saturdays, then in the afternoons, then or through Monday to Friday. And that helped me notice certain things that as a professional I was supposed to do, that we don't have formulas, that that we always have to think about what is it that our students needs. I realized, for example, that I was teaching three first courses or beginner courses, but they were completely different. In the morning, I had adults, most of them working in offices and in companies. And then in the morning, I had teenagers who were about to enter the university, and they had different ideas. And then in the evening, again, I had adults, but they were tired and they wanted to leave the class as soon as possible. So that was something that as a professional, it was important to take into account. And as I'm noticing in the chat, the idea of not only thinking about the corporate system per se, but realizing certain things within that system. Then I started working in public universities. That was when I was just finishing my master's degree. I just finished it, and I started working at Digital University, at Caldas University. And what I realized in ELT is that we are a community committed to becoming professionals. All of us, we come from different backgrounds, but we have the same common goal, the same shared idea, and it's we want to be the best professionals we can be. And also, I understand that it was okay to have debates and to have this and to put into practice this, and I mean to be able to express ideas, to share them without imposing them. That it was okay, that it was necessary, and that it was also about being practical. At those of us who have worked at public universities, and I'm sure the same happens with those teachers working in public schools, we develop this practical sense. It's a common sense of knowing what is it that we have to do according to the circumstances, to the context where we are. And that was really interesting in terms of my professional journey in public universities. And then I move on to private universities. So I have been working at La Salle for almost 15 years now, and some opportunities at Free University of Colombia. And what I realized there was this big discourse, again, about professionalism, about possibilities, trying new things, innovating. But there was this idea of competencies and development, and how we are, as teacher educators and as teachers in general, we have a set of competencies that we're supposed to know, that we're supposed to work with our students with, and they are supposed to acquire them, develop them. And based on those competencies, we're supposed to come up with projects, programs, proposals, classes, etc., experiences. And it's been quite interesting. It's been also a place to learn from others, from different disciplines, which has been really interesting to me. But in my latest professional opportunities, I have had the opportunity of working with colleagues and students from other universities, from foreign universities. And what I have realized is this idea of work Englishes and this idea of interculturality, internalization, of course, the idea but also standards and globalization. And all of those discourses, as you notice, were also influencing me. I just started noticing that I was using them, that I was reading and writing about them. And sometimes I was not aware of how certain words, certain concepts, certain perspectives were within me. In other words, I started noticing that also my professional journey was making part of who I was as a teacher. The thing was that I was not aware of many of those discourses, concepts, definitions, terminology, and agendas at the end of the day. Now, I have shared with you how I have become a teacher and a teacher educator, and I have shared with you two perspectives. The one from the academic journey and another one that is the professional journey. Now, so what? What have I learned and what can we learn when we reflect on those two levels, our academic level of academic lives and our professional lives? Well, let me share some of the things that I have learned. I learned that we have been bombarded systematically with imported teacher training and certification. Well, this is not something new. I was not aware of it in my undergraduate program, and probably I was becoming aware of it in my master's degree program. I was starting to notice things, but it was something that I realized when I started analyzing, comparing, contrasting. And as you know, well, different authors in Colombia have helped us understand what goes on with imported methodologies, with imported policies. Gonzalez in 2007, 2009, telling us these concepts about the marketization and the businessification of ELT, part of what we know it's nowadays called edu business. USMA also helping us understand these top-down practices and discourses that generate exclusion, stratification, and other authors from not only from Colombia, from other countries, also helping us understand the importance of adaptation, the importance of helping, of putting the local context in the center of what we do, and helping also local decision makers reclaim the local in language policy and practice. So I started noticing that I have not been, or that I have not had enough ownership in my own education, as in my academic journey. I have not had enough ownership in my professional life. And also what I noticed was that I was not aware of the importance of local knowledge. Unfortunately, I was reading authors from other countries, from the United States, from the United Kingdom, which is okay. I'm not saying that it's not. But I feel that most of the time we disregard what our own local scholars are saying. And little by little, with these first, thinking about my professional journey, my academic journey, I realized of two important things that we all, that we teachers and teacher educators need to be aware of. Number one, take ownership of our educational system. We are part of it, and what we do helps or prevents it from becoming what we want it to be. And also, we should acknowledge local knowledge, local context. I also realized that we have been importing materials and teachers. When I say importing materials and teachers, well, what I mean is that many of the things that we do are based on textbooks from other countries, created by for other kind of learners. So there's a lot of communicative and linguistic mismatches. Unfortunately, the social cultural adaptation is not present that much in many institutes, in many schools that are using textbooks that are based on on the global production, on global companies that provide us with telling us that is what you have to teach, that's the way you have to teach it, etc. And also, I started noticing again this idea of the native speaker fallacy, particularly with the idea of inviting teachers from other countries to come to our own country to help us teach English, because we were not probably dealing with what we were supposed to be dealing. And I also felt at this particular moment attacked, that I was being criticized and that everything was my fault, and that as a teacher and as a teacher educator, I was not doing my job. Something else that I noticed that goes together with all of these important training, certification, materials, teachers, this idea of policies and methodologies. Because of time, I'm going to skip it. But it's basically the idea of how we are from other countries, we are imposed certain ideas of what is it that we're supposed to do, teach, and that is reflected in the policies that we that we receive from the Ministry of Education, and even in our own schools and in our own universities. And sometimes we know that there are some ways that we're supposed to follow, that there are some procedures that we're supposed to fulfill, and we just go with the flow. And I realized that it's important to point them out, that it's important to open this idea that we're not just implementers, that we're not passive recipients of what others say and what others believe, that we are supposed and we are expected to be the thinkers, actors, participants. Now, all of that, when I started noticing all of those hidden agendas, at the very bottom of it, what I learned, what I realized was this idea of the geocultural subalternization of knowledge and education. And to me, I'm sure that I have seen it before, but I was not aware, I was not conscious of it, and I was not conscious of the effect it had in my professional journey and in my academic journey. I'm sure that that I was told in different moments by different professors, and maybe in different meetings with different people, colleagues, but one way or another, I was always paying attention to other things. And I think that is because the system wants us to not to focus on what we're supposed to focus, for our own benefit as teachers and teacher educators, and for the benefit of our learners and our institutions. So we keep being bombarded with new methodologies, new materials, new policies. It's not a secret that in the last 15 years, we have Programa Nacional de Bilingüismo, Programa de Fortalecimiento de Competencias en Lenguas Extranjeras, Programa Nacional de Inglés, and different decrees and different situations. Those of us who are at the university level, we have been given different decrees and laws of what we're supposed to do in the BA programs. And when you were learning how to do things certain way, then 1 year out of the sudden you were supposed to do it differently, etc., etc. But what I realized is that it's part of a system. It's not an accident. It's not naive. It's not innocent. And then this geocultural subalternization of knowledge and education. Well, some of the ideas that I can share with you, I'm sure you have read about it, from the ZOSA 2007, universities from the Global South. We are institutions that we are subjected to subalternizing policies and discourses. And that is a way of controlling who we are, what we do. Other authors like Brunner and Oliva in 2007, they also talk about this dissemination of premises based on the idea of educational mercantilism. Mollis in the year 2006, he also talked about the idea of denaturalizing the university, and more particularly universal knowledge, and making it commercial. Well, not surprised nowadays, we have to be in research groups, and we have to get money for our own research, and that research has to be profitable, otherwise we're not allowed to do it. Mignolo, and I'm sure when I mention that name, basically he invites us to realize that subalternization, this particular kind of subalternization, is an example of how the modern Western thought has been imposed, has been installed into what we do, into what we think, the way we think, into how we conceive ourselves. And by doing that, that imposition has silenced other forms of knowledge and has instituted one unique single privileged locus of enunciation, which is that if you don't speak or act as if you were in Europe and as if you were in North America, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, well, this first part about my own journey and what I realized. I have done this to contextualize where I am coming from as a teacher educator, and as a teacher researcher. In this second part, I want to focus on becoming a subject in ELT. But before I do so, I don't know if there are some questions, some comments that the audience would like to make based on the first part that I just showed, or the things that I just said and share with you. So I'm more than open to reading them on our chat or listening to what you have to say. Any comments in the chat, or if you want to open the microphone before I continue, or should I just move on?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Professor Juan Valdez. I'm the Executive Director of Dominican Republic TESOL. I am sorry because I'm just listening to this outdoors and you may hear some noise. I'm truly glad about your topic, what you're really talking about. I was a presenter at Columbia TESOL just last year, and it was a very similar topic. We at Dominican Republic TESOL have actually raised our voices on the same issues. The fact is that most of Latin America has not been successful in English language teaching and learning. And what we have talked about is basically the fact that we have been sold ideas, models, foreign colonial ideas. And in the end, there has not been a successful journey in English language learning at all whatsoever. So I'm truly glad, this is on behalf of Dominican Republic TESOL, that you are raising a voice on the same issue. Because after all, English continues to be a luxury to most Latin American countries where only an elite can actually learn it. And what they do is basically to keep on the same prejudices and the same privileges throughout time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think we have been blamed that English is not working in the whole in our continent. And we have accepted kind of very, very submissively, it seems that we have said, yeah, maybe it's us. But when we start going deeper into what I was talking in the first part of our own professional journeys and our academic journeys, well, we are who we are because of interests, agendas, privileges, discourses, practices that wanted us to be in a particular way. So what I have found is that one way to really change these dynamics is to become subjects, to be aware of our own journeys and to understand what subject, what becoming a subject is. So let me share some other ideas in the second section of what I think are some concepts that we might have as milestones to start understanding becoming a subject in ELT. Well, as you probably know, or I'm going to share 3 different kinds of subjects that still exist, that coexist. Some more stronger than others, some that are that have been obviously imposed, that have defined the way we understand being a subject. Well, we have first the idea of the Cartesian subject, that is an idealism of the subject, and here this concept of, let me have a look, that there is a conscious and an autonomous being who's capable of controlling and manipulating or dominating the world as an object. And we still believe that. Just listen to Mr. Trump, and you will realize that he is a result of this kind of subject. And not only Mr. Trump in the United States. Here in Colombia, we have Mr. Duque and other people who are close to us. I'm sure that we have heard even colleagues of ours and people who have certain power telling us that, yeah, we're capable of controlling and dominating our students, and that's what we're supposed to do. And that and if we don't do it, then something's wrong with us. Well, then the Kantian subject, that it's a rationalized subject. From this perspective, the subject is an individual circumscribed to reason who should somehow be disjointed from his body, more specifically from his emotions, and that this subject it's completely separated from the natural world. This idea that through our thinking, through our logical and mental possibilities, we are the kings of the world. Well, there has been obviously different possibilities of noticing how this idea has affected us. Some examples of that, I was just checking this morning, this idea that we are the only individuals of the planet that deserve respect, and the other individuals or members of the planet don't, because they're not supposed to have the same level of reasoning, the same level of logical thinking, and therefore we can eat them, we can kill them, and we can do whatever we want with them. And not only with animals, I'm talking also to those people who don't think in a certain way, following certain parameters, then a society will kill them, Well, in my case, what I am basing my talk, it's from Foucault. It's a Foucaultian subject, more in terms of history, more in terms of discourse. And as you probably have heard and read from your own studies, well, Foucault precisely questioned that idea of a stable subject, full of awareness, autonomous being in his action and in his senses, and what he helped us realize is we are, as subjects, we are a product of particular forms of power and knowledge, and those particular forms of power and knowledge are normally connected to interests and needs of the dominant class. And it is connected to what that they, the dominant class, want to produce, want to legitimize, want to enforce. In other words, and trying to understand some of the invitations that we can make following Foucault, is this idea of how to realize that as subjects, we are born inside specific historically discursive formations, and that we represent a particular time of discourse, and those particular discourses and those particular relationships in terms of power have helped made us the way we are in terms of knowledge, what we can know, and in terms of power, what we can do. So realizing these three kinds of subjects, what I'm advocating, what I'm trying to point out is that Foucault has helped us with this idea of a subject that it's born as a result of historical forces, and those forces have manifested in particular ways of discourse. I'm going to move on. This is something just that I'm sure you know. I'm not going to spend much time here, but well, how we become the kind of subject that that at a certain historical time we're supposed to be, through discipline that is basically instituting a mentality and using certain institutionalized frameworks, dispositives, and being given instruments that delimit our possibilities that are technologies. I'm going to move on because this is what I want to share with you, some of my ideas. And it's following Foucault and the idea of subject. What I realized was, okay, let's think about teacher subjectivation. Yes, there was a comment. Okay, yes, thank you, Juan. This idea of how to become a teacher as a subject. And I believe that it has to do with constructing a mentality, which to me and other authors, as you can see, Semmelman, in the year 2000, what he helped us realize from our continent, from Chile and Mexico then, is the role of teachers as subjects in the construction of knowledge, which is something that we have been told and that we try to do, but the system doesn't want us or will not allow us to do it as we should. But also we are subjects in the construction in the historical construction of social reality. In other words, by having these kind of activities, by sharing what we do, by exchanging knowledge, by interacting more cohesively, we are constructing our social reality, and we're progressing. We're making it a better place, which sounds ideal, but it's something that I'm sure all of us need and want. Subjectivation, or becoming a subject, allows all of us as teachers, as teacher educators, to understand that our efforts to build our own realities through our individual actions, it's part of the process, but it's not enough. I want to say that again. We have to understand that our personal efforts, our professional and academic efforts to build our own realities through our individual actions is part of subjectivation, is part of the process, but it's not enough. Because what we also need is transform our social reality through coexistence, through collective constructions of meaning. And what we are doing this afternoon, and what Asocopi has been doing for the last 3 months, is a perfect example of subjectivation the way I understand it. We are putting together our individual efforts, what we have learned, what we know, what we have been able to do, and we are sharing them with our community. We are trying to provide us, all of us, with a new energy, with a new synergy that undoubtedly will have some changes in the way we understand ELT and what we can do. Asocopi has opened a very powerful door to creating knowledge, to exercising power, and to changing who we are, to changing ourselves. Okay, because of time, I will talk very quickly about teacher resistance. The way I understand it, and based on my readings, resisting and being resistors as teachers is opening, creating alternatives, possibilities. Semmelman, again, in 1998, he sees subjectivation as a form of resistance, but he will define it as a way of resisting the inertia of our daily and collective lives. What we are supposed to do day after day, what we have been taught, what we have been given, what determines the way we think, determines the way we do things. And he says that this resistance takes place when we question things, when we seek new senses about who we are, ourselves, what we do, our actions, what we think, our knowledge, and what we feel, our emotions. So we teachers are not only supposed to exercise reasoning, autonomy, planning, amazement. No, we're also supposed to question, to project, to invent, to devise, to resist. Now, this resistance is history connected, is history based, and it has to do with the historicity of our teaching, of how we have become who we are as teachers and teachers educators. It has to do with unveiling our journeys and at the same time unveiling possibilities. Zuluaga, somebody that I'm sure all of us have read, she helped us understand that pedagogy is based on historical practices, that pedagogy is, when we historize, when we make pedagogy a historical activity, we recognize and we question the present practices and discourses, and we check the historicity of our doing and saying. Based on this idea, I share with you the first section of my talk this afternoon. I am convinced, as Zuluaga was, that by recognizing and questioning who we are, the way we think, what we do nowadays, we are capable of revealing and understanding social cultural rules, political and ideological patterns that have been imposed and that are determining the way we perform and the way we enunciate. Okay. Because of time, I will finish my talk with some preliminary ideas of resisting in ELT. Well, resisting in ELT to me has to do with the concept of teacher subalternization. But I don't want you to think that what I'm saying contradicts the second part. We have been subalternized and we have been told to do certain things. However, if we take into account the subaltern studies, what we are going to realize is that the subaltern is an actor, is a participant whose voice, whose experiences, whose actions are important. We need to visualize them. And more importantly, we need to legitimize those voices, those actions. Everything that we have done individually and collectively, we need to visualize them, make them visible, and also make them legit. In other words, the teacher as a subaltern is a teacher that exercises counter-hegemonic possibilities, is a teacher that seeks for contradictions, that promotes dislocations in the dominant discourse, is a teacher, as you can see here, of criticism, permanent, ongoing criticism, and not criticizing just because of the sake of criticizing, but searching for better, bigger, more informed possibilities. Resistance and subalternization. Well, this has to do with all of us creating new conditions to resist and to transform the ways that have been imposed to do and to think in today's culture, in today's institutions. It is through these kind of activities that we're doing, and that again, I have to congratulate Asocopi and thank Asocopi for allowing us to have these kind of transgressive practices. These are non-conforming actions. These are spaces and times where all of us come together every Thursday at 5 to understand and to share, to put together repertoires, different repertoires in terms of knowledge, in terms of what we do, in terms of our journeys. And I believe that by doing so, as this 2016 maintains, this will enable us to experience substantive improvements. To me, it is something that proves me that when a group of teachers get together and share and talk and discuss, we are opening a new understanding of what it is to be subjects of as teachers educators. Okay. Also, connected to this idea of teacher resistance and a practice of resistance, this idea of we need to desubalternize. That is basically the idea of we are supposed, as teachers, we are supposed to be actors of the academia. We are supposed to think. We are supposed to act. We're not supposed to be subject to what others say. We're not supposed to be obedient. Unfortunately, the system wants us to behave like that, to think like that. But our mission as teachers is just the contrary. And many of our such activities have been denied, probably all of them. They have been ignored, they have been silenced. And I think that by getting together, by sharing, by interacting, we are resisting. We are overcoming policies and discourses that are not connected to really to what the ways, to our ways of knowing, to our ways of acting, to our ways of being and feeling. And I again, following Buendia, we need to understand them to realize how those policies, discourses, and practices are trying to dominate us, to subjugate us, but also how by getting together, by persisting, by understanding us as subjects, historical and discursive agents and actors, we are changing and we are opening new possibilities. I will finish with practices of resistance. The idea that as teachers, we have possibilities to resist. We have technology, following Foucault, we have technologies of the self. We have practices of self-care. Basically, what they are saying is how we could construct new realities, how we could open new alternatives in terms of knowledge, in terms of power. From this perspective of practices of teacher resistance, the construction of the subject, and I will finish with this, it's in three axes that I will invite us to consider: knowledge, power, and self. In terms of knowledge, what Asokopi is doing, I think, resembles or is connected to what I think. It has to do with communities of practice. All of us share a concern, a passion. We learn how to do it better as we interact regularly. My invitation to Asokopi and all the members is to keep on doing what we have been doing, because that is producing new knowledge that we all need to be able to move and to promote, to make visible other possibilities. In terms of power, I would say that decolonial studies and the decolonial turn is a possibility to understand our what the world is right now, and also to be able to mobilize new ways of thinking, new ways of doing from the global south, from our own realities. We have to understand and we have to realize how the imposition of the modern Western thought has silenced our own voices. And instead of that, we have to make possible new options of power, knowing, and being. The final question, that is the self, and with this I finish, is an invitation. I cannot give you a magic recipe or a formula to discover who you are, but probably by having listened to me, by checking my example, maybe you will realize that we need to discover who we are right now, individually and collectively, thinking about our own academic journeys, our own professional journeys, and going to certain possibilities, perspectives that are inviting us to exercise our own agency, our own autonomy, to put into practice what we are supposed to be: academics, teachers, people who don't obey, people who will look for change, for social justice, etc. Well, this is the end of my talk. Thank you so much for your attendance. I'm open to reading your comments on the chat or listening to your opinions.
Thank you, Yamith, very much. Very enlightening, I would say, conversation, because actually this, I would not take it as a lecture. It was just like a conversation. And I guess, as you said, this has helped us try to think on exactly who we are and what is it that we're doing. So thank you very much. And of course, you are all welcome to please write down your comments and your questions in the chat box. It is very interesting to see actually that we have created, as you said, this community in this based on these spaces that we came up with based on this pandemic situation. But also, as you said, Asocopy is not only creating community based on these spaces, based on these webinars. We have been doing this for 54 years now. So this is not only something that we came up with these last 3 months. We have been doing this forever. So this is actually, this is the reason why Asocopy does exist. All right. So thank you, Yamith, for your insights. Thank you for your presentation. And of course, thank you very much, everyone, for the comments and the questions that you are right now writing there in the chat.
Yes, Jair, definitely. I just mentioned the webinar as an example of something that Asocopy has offered us precisely in the pandemic, but no doubt Asocopy and all the people who have participated in Asocopy, all of us who have one way or another been members of this community, I think Asocopy has helped us become who we are also as subjects in the ELT community in our country. Probably what we need to do, or what we need to take advantage of, is precisely of this community, of these possibilities, of the power that we have, of the particularity of the kind of people who participate in Asocopy. I think by making it visible, by legitimizing what we are doing, we will change, and we will exercise change, which is what we want.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, Jasid is one of our regular attendees here, and he's recommending a reading, very interesting, of course. Also, Edgar Lucero is also sharing with us the idea of reading, as you said, local authors, as the ones that you referenced, reading How, Profile, just Icala and Letagua, and all these journals that actually are part of this exercise that we all are doing in the ELT in Colombia. So that is also interesting. Also interesting to come in here, some people from other countries as well, Professor Juan Valdez and some other people from Ecuador and other countries that actually are going through the same situations we are encountering these days, right? So interesting, these type of conversations, which actually, I mean, we did not plan this, but your presentation just gave us the chance for inviting you all to please visit the website asocopy.org, and please register for our upcoming event. Is going to be in 2 weeks, and that is the reason why we are not going to have the webinar that we always have. So we are not going to have the webinar this coming Thursday. We're going to give you that time off for you to take it easy and to get ready for the event. This is going to be the first event that we have in Asocopy, the online event. It's a virtual event. We have more than 100 presentations. We have 3 international speakers, 3 local speakers, and you are going to make sure that actually we are going to be talking about the decoloniality in the ELT community in Colombia. So this is one topic that is going to be there. Of course, the focus of this conference this year is on the practice of the teachers in schools. So there we are going to find exactly what we have been talking about, not only these 3 months, but the core of the association itself. So you are more than welcome to please visit our website, register, attend our event, and of course to continue to build this community. If you want also to take a look at the previous webinars we have held during the last pandemic situation, also please visit YouTube, Asocopy. There you're going to find super interesting webinars that have been held by Colombians and also some other international speakers that have contributed to this community, to this co-construction of knowledge. So thank you, Yamith, very much for having helped us, for having contributed, for having filled up this space that is for all of us. Thank you all for having attended these webinars so far. And I will definitely see you in 2 weeks' time at the national event that we have put together for all of us, by all of us. Thank you very much. It's Asocopi. Asocopi is the, okay, so if you want to please visit asocopi.org, you are going to find all the details. You can find the program there. You find everything is already there. So please visit our website, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you all very much. In 2 weeks, we are going to meet again with more than 100 presentations. Thank you, Yamith.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Goodbye, all. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Jose Aldemar. I just see Professor Melba Livia, Julia, Jessid, well, Professor Esperanza Vera as well. I mean, like, it is really interesting to see all this academic community here. Alejandro Davila, of course, Carolina Blanco, Daisy Perez has been like a regular attendee here as well. Professor Frank Giraldo, Jonathan Vasquez from UPTC, Juan Carlos Gordillo, who's always there from New York. Well, the board of Asocopi, Luz Mari Quintero from UIS. I mean, like,
Luz
these
Mari.
are just like, yes. Vanessa Vargas from oh, I just forgot. Okay, of course. I mean, like, there is many people. Yolanda, of course, Yolanda Samaka, and all of you who has made this space possible. Thank you very much. And once again, I will see you in 2 weeks at the National Conference. Have a great rest of the afternoon.